Hi there, everybody. Karen Roby here with Jason Perlow and Jason Cipriani. They make up Jason Squared. We're glad to be with you today and talking about a serious subject. This is social media, the impact on our mental health. You guys, this is something that we talk about a lot. We read about a lot, you know, the implications for younger people, and it definitely impacts those of us adults who are on social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram. There's so many things coming at us these days, and comments and likes and all of that stuff can be a lot to take. So Jason Cipriani, let's just start with you here on the state of social media as it relates to our mental health.
Yeah, and it's a very broad topic, but a very impactful one as well. In that, we've become, and we and myself is probably what I'm talking about more so, but society as a whole is we've become so accustomed to reaching for our phones in any brief moments of downtime or when we're on our computers. And the first place we visit is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of these other social networks that we post snippets of our life. And it originally started out as something fun and a great way to stay in touch, or maybe you needed to use it for work and connect with long lost friends or family members and relatives that don't live nearby. But I think over the years, at least for me personally, it's slowly progressed into this, it's almost a burden of having to constantly check and, check in on a post that I just published and seeing how well it's doing, if I'm getting any likes, are there any comments? And, when you do that, and especially if you're using every moment of free time you have and you're grabbing your phone, whether you're waiting in line or you have 2 minutes and you kind of want to avoid a social conversation or social interaction, it really can wear on you once you start not getting that positive reinforcement, and that life that we've created for ourselves online starts to impact our real life and the way we view ourselves and the life we truly live. And, there's pros and cons to social networking, but right now I feel like we're kind of at a tipping point where everyone is starting to slowly realize that how negative of an impact, just sending out a tweet or posting on Instagram can have on you and your mental health, and make you start to question, your place in society, when in reality, a lot of that stuff's fake and, composed and set up just perfectly to look great online, but it's not real life.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Jason Perlow, actually, just a few minutes ago, we were just talking about this off camera, that you just posted a picture of your really good lunch, some really good looking tacos. And, that kind of thing is fun. It's fun for me to, to jump on and see that one of my friends or you's having a great lunch or attended a great event last night and, seeing you all dressed up, things like that. So in that respect, it's kind of nice to stay connected to people that may not, live near you, but there's always the flip side.
So, yeah, no, you're right. In the last 2 years, I've had to take much more control over my interactions online. Obviously, Jason and myself are both writers. We have to create content for the internet to improve our engagement on the stuff that we write. The ZDNet and the other outlets that I write for. Engagement is really important because it keeps you, your articles in the focus and people read them, and you have to, more now commenting on things is more important now than it used to be. And that's just strictly work related social network. We both use Twitter. I use Instagram for a lot of things for my food related writing. Obviously, you saw a picture of my lunch. But also Facebook, right? Because Facebook is now changing its focus towards group dynamics more so than personal feeds. So they're increasing their focus more on your interaction with lots of people at a time, right? So you're going to get so many more updates when you're participating on a group thread than you are on something on your personal page. I belong to a couple of groups where membership is in tens of thousands. So it's very easy to start seeing hundreds and hundreds of these updates occurring, daily. So it does become overwhelming. I've had to, because of, and I also write corporate for a living. So I have lots of different responsibilities. And I get lots of updates on chat programs and things like that. So it's hard to balance this, especially as you get older. It's much harder to maintain focus than when you're 25 versus, when you're 50, right? So what I've tried to do is one is I do use technological things to try to limit the amount of interactions that I have. One of the things I currently use now on Facebook is it's a Chrome, what do you call it? A Chrome,
Extension?
yeah, a Chrome extension called Social Fixer. And I've used it over the last 5 years for different things, but mostly it's when during the election cycle. Now we do have an election cycle coming up in the next couple months. The rhetoric on both ends of the spectrum is going to be heating up. There's going to be a lot of conversations, memes, all kinds of things being shared about different type of subjects that, are going to aggravate you. So that extension allows you to eliminate all mentions of politics on all different sides, all different subjects. You plug it in, you turn it on, and suddenly your Facebook is back to cats and interactions with your friends again. And if they mention stuff that's related to those things, it's not going to show, or it'll show you this is a politics post. We've muted it, and you have to click on it if you want to see it. That's one aspect. And that's made my feeds a lot more quieter than they used to be, and I can just use Facebook for the things that I like now. The other things that I think are good are things like mindfulness meditation software. There's a great software package that I was introduced to about 2 years ago called Headspace. Headspace runs on your mobile device. It can also run on your Amazon Alexa. It can also run on your PC or your Mac, on your iPad, whatever you got. But basically, it's a subscription service that for $80 a year, there's various different instructors that will help you through breathing exercises. It'll help you with sleeping exercises. You can take 2 minutes out of your day to do it. You can take 20 minutes out of your day to do it. But either way, it's a great way to just sit and decompress with a very calming voice, learning how to breathe in and out. And it sounds silly, but it does work. And I've found that it's helped me quite a bit.
Yeah, I've heard that from a number of people, Jason, that can certainly be of help. All right, so Jason Cipriani, before we get to your thoughts on some things people can keep in mind, what do you think about, Jason Cipriani, kind of playing devil's advocate here, I will for a second, that a lot of people will say, and one of the big social media gurus that I follow talks a lot about the fact that, with social media now, though, as it relates especially to the younger generation, to teenagers, they now have an outlet that they didn't have before. They now have within reach, anyone in the world that may be going through something like they are experiencing, whether it's bullying or they have a particular disorder that makes them feel different. Now they have a way to reach out to other people that are just like them, and that brings them comfort. They can have conversations with someone that, if they're in Washington, D.C., with someone in Australia, which we've never had the ability to do that before. So on the flip side, there's great things that can come from social media.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In no way is my stance that social media and social networking is, horrible all around 100% of the time. But like with anything else, there's good and bad. And in moderation, I think it's a great thing. Absolutely, being able to connect with someone who shares in the same feelings. Maybe you have mental illness and shares in the same feelings that you have, or has gone through, a hard time like you, or disease, or whatever it is, and you're able to connect and bond with. That absolutely, those tools are priceless, really. And you're right. We've never had this right now, but there's a flip side to that too, where it very quickly and easily can turn into something negative. I'm in some Facebook groups, just like Jason was talking about a second ago, and for the most part, 80% of those groups are very resourceful and helpful. But then you get a few people in there who, every time you comment or every time you post something or anyone else posts something, they're the first ones to start, having a negative interaction with. And so I think there's a fine line in making sure, especially for the younger generation, for making sure that the outlets that you find to interact with on social media are positive. And they're not going to be 100% positive, but that you're eliminating those, Facebook groups where, if the interactions are getting negative a lot of the time, and, there's always someone in there coming after anyone who posts or coming after you, then, you have to cut back on those. But yeah, absolutely. To your point, the resources we have now just as a society to connect and interact and relate to other people in the world, it's huge, and it's very beneficial to everyone involved. from that regard.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think it's with anything that can be good in our world and always has been that it has to be in moderation, right? We go overboard on something and that's never a good thing, right? You know, regardless of whether it's food or social media or something like that, it just seems as humans, it's sometimes hard to regulate ourselves. What do you think about that, Jason Perlow?
Well, regulation is really important. That's why I like when I take my vacation time, I like to go to places where I can essentially disconnect from using this technology. I work from home. So the benefit of working from home is you get to work from home. The negative part of working from home is you get to work from home. So yeah, I always try to take out an hour or so out of my day. One is to go out and get some coffee or go get a quick lunch or something, just to be out and to encounter other people. I always try to, my wife yells at me, we don't cook at home enough, but I like to go out at night and, for happy hour and meet some people, have a couple of drinks, go out and eat a couple things, try a new restaurant, a couple times a week. I think that's healthy. But it's important that you do take time off, you do use your vacation time. I know so many people that work in the tech profession, they get 2+ weeks of vacation a year, they never use it. They work from home. They're like, I don't know if I can take a vacation now because work is really busy, we're short on folks or whatever, we have deadlines. They don't take that time off and they burn out. I've seen so much burnout in the technical profession. It's an epidemic, really. And so I like to go to places, if you can take the time off, even if you can't leave the country, if you can't leave the state, find some place where you can go for a weekend not far from home that, you can just turn the phone off for a couple hours at a time. Yeah, I understand you have to check in with family and stuff like that. But if it's vacation, nobody should be bothering you from work on vacation, and just learn to do things that are interactive. Go to museums, take walks if you live in a warm climate, take some walks on the beach, go to the boardwalk or something, or go to the city. Go see a show or something if you're lucky enough to live in New York or one of those metro areas that have various different types of cultural events and things going on. Be among other people. Don't sit and look at your thing, constantly. I think that's the hardest thing for people, is to disconnect from that device, especially the younger generation that you're in. I'm almost 50, and I still feel that, when I'm out to dinner with friends and stuff, I feel like this urge to need to look at the phone because, I might have gotten a message from work or something like that. So it's really kind of retraining your brain to create boundaries from the technological objects. Yes, we need to create boundaries from the people that we feel that are toxic and are bothering us or whatever, but we also need to set boundaries from the devices and from the various software and services that we use as well.
Yeah, most certainly. And like you said, being out, with society, if you work from home especially, you've got to give yourself that time and disconnect and find ways to just say, I'm going to put the phone down for a day, or I'm going to give Facebook a 2-day break, or whatever it may be. Jason Cipriani, we'll go to you here shortly for final thoughts. I know you're a parent as I am, and with my kids, this is something I'm trying to understand more and help them work through this, because it's not going away, right? Social media is here to stay, and they have to learn healthy habits from an early age, so that as they get into being an adult, that they've got responsible ways of using it for the right reasons and not getting bogged down and potentially harming them, in terms of their mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a sticky topic, especially in our household. My oldest is getting ready to go into middle school. She's had a phone for about 6 months now, but she's not on any social networks. And I don't know when we're going to get to a point where we're comfortable letting her on any. She has a lot of friends who may not have a phone, but they have an iPod or they have an iPad and they're on Snapchat, and they're constantly asking, can she please get on Snapchat so we can talk? And the answer is a hard no right away, like especially Snapchat, where there's no paper trail, so to speak, of what is going on there, what is being said, what is being shared. And there's a few other issues I have with their news feed and their discovery feed and the stories that they select without an age restriction. And, it's just not appropriate. Going forward, the idea for getting on Facebook or Twitter or even Instagram, and it scares me. And I honestly don't know how to address it other than having very frank and honest conversations with her, saying this is what can happen. If this does happen, here's what you need to do, and here's your reaction. Here's what to say on there. Here's what not to say on there. You know, if you need to have an honest conversation about a friend with a friend, then that needs to be in person, stuff like that. And that will help limit and hopefully prevent any sort of the drama and issues that can come about from it. It's a whole new world this year for us going forward, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more pressure on myself and my wife, as well as my daughter, to, you know, let her start to branch out and interact with her friends in new ways. And to that regard, you know, some of the advice I'll give to her as far as cutting back, because it's very easy to become somewhat addicted to it. I go through periods where I delete Facebook or Twitter or whatever else app off of my phone if I know I need to take a break for a few days. Like we're going camping this weekend. I don't think we're going to have signal up there, so that'll be a forced break, which is a huge relief, and you know, I look forward to that. Another thing I've done is I've moved Instagram and Facebook and Twitter off the main page of my phone, so the apps are, you know, 2 or 3 screens to the side, so that muscle reaction of when I take my phone out of my pocket and unlock it, my eyes don't immediately go to the Facebook app and tap on that, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm looking at my news feed for the next 20 minutes without even realizing what I'm doing. You know, little things, little tweaks to your daily routine and your normal habit of every time you unlock your phone, what you reach for, can help limit what you're doing on social network. But at the end of the day, you just have to have the willpower, I think, to, you know, cut back on your own. You know, Google has tools, Apple has tools in iOS and Android that will limit how much time we could spend in an app, but they're very easily disabled. And that, you know, sure, it's a crutch that we could help lean on, but if you can disable it in 2 taps, what does it really matter?
Yeah, most definitely. And just, you know, as adults too, we definitely need to, and I know you both said that, have looked to Google or Apple for some of those apps. It's definitely worth looking into and see if it can help you on a daily basis. Jason Perlow, any final thoughts for you on this?
Yeah, one thing I think that we need to touch on a little bit, you know, is the darker side of all this stuff, which is that, you know, these services are feedback loops, right? I don't know if anyone has seen the new movie, the documentary on Netflix. I think it's called The Great Hack. It's about the Cambridge Analytica scandal during the, you know, the outcome of the previous presidential election in the United States. We have to remember that services like Facebook, you know, when we post things, we like things, we do various different activities, that data about each and every one of us is captured in some way. How that data is used by the online services themselves, like Facebook, we only kind of know a little bit about, but we definitely didn't know how that data was being shared and used by third parties, such as Cambridge Analytica, which took a lot of our likes and favorites and things like that, and built up very sophisticated data models about personalities of voters and things like that. And they were able then to create social media campaigns using memes and all kinds of stuff to manipulate the way for which candidate wanted to have them vote for them. And so obviously, you know, that's a huge thing that's going on now in our political system. It's been exposed, right? So we don't know if there'll ever be a campaign of the same type and scale ever done again, but we don't know this. We don't know this for a fact. We don't know what safeguards Facebook is really doing with their data, with their graph APIs and all the different things that they have for developers to access. So we need to be very careful about how we interpret information on social networking. It isn't always as it seems, as Jason says. A lot of these things on Facebook, like on Instagram, if you watch celebrities and these Instagram celebs, you know, effectively they are celebrities because of Instagram. You know, these are highly staged, highly manufactured photographs that depict perfect lifestyles and things like that are not necessarily real. So we have to question everything that we see online and use our brains and say, hey, you know what? You know, maybe this isn't real. Maybe I need to do some additional research about what I'm reading just to make sure this is coming from a valid news source, that this is trusted, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, it is still difficult to do that, even with quote unquote trusted news sources, because everybody because of the speed of the way things happen in news today, there's so much more pressure to get the articles and the information out that the amount of fact checking that we used to do with traditional media, the same due diligence isn't necessarily still being done today by all news outlets at all times. So we have to be careful.
Yeah, we absolutely have to. It is a new world in that regard. All right, Jason Perlow, Jason Cipriani, we thank you for being with us, and we thank you for watching Jason Squared. We'll see you again for a great discussion. Thanks for watching.